We are currently in my garden, and I thought I would talk a little bit about politics of food and the relationship that the US has with organizers who are trying to increase accessibility to food. Black Panthers were labeled a terrorist organization, and they provided free meals, breakfast and lunch to their community. But they were labeled a terrorist organization, and yet Congress has just voted not to extend the free meal program at public schools, which means over 10 million students are at risk of going hungry because they relied on the free meals that schools provided. There are only two countries in the UN that voted against the amendment to make food a human right. Those countries were the US and Israel. This shouldn't come to any surprise because Western countries do not really have concern about their citizens' well-being, or if they're housed or have health care, things like that. But the US has gleefully been funding the Israeli apartheid state for decades, and as part of the Israeli apartheid state, they regularly conduct raids on terrorist organizations or hotbeds of terrorism, or anyone that they believe is organizing or actively resisting against Israeli population. So January, as well as Israel and the United States being the only two countries to vote against food being a human right, it was with the help of US purchased weapons and US aid sent to Israel that January 18th, 2021, Israeli forces raided the community center and refugee camp in Aida, and they shot over 150 tear gas canisters that volunteers counted the next day. Part of the community center had a rooftop hydroponic garden, which, it was probably just a cover for more terrorist activities. Tear gas canisters are so regularly fired upon Palestinians that there is a garden made completely of tear gas canisters that they have planted in. It's the empire's role to control their populace, not to feed them or house them or provide medical care. They really just try to exert as much power as possible and exploit as much labor as they can.